So that's one thing that I would like to address. I also, between yesterday and today, I have slept on all of this that I heard about yesterday. And I also think it's really important that we go outside of Burning Man with what we do. That is a really important thing. And we are about to embark on something that we've never done. And last year was 20 years for us on the playa. And our gift to the playa was to make soup and serve soup. And we did it pretty successfully. We purchased a 90-gallon cauldron, which we hung from a crane. And
sounds good so far.
And this was, and underneath the cauldron was, we made a propane, like gas heated flame. So the cauldron at night was always, it was a witch's cauldron. And it was always, the flame was over the cauldron, and it was pretty humongous. It was pretty badass. It was quite the gift. And we served soup Tuesday night, Wednesday night. We started on Thursday, and we did not end until Sunday. We went day and night serving soup. And so yes, that was our gift for 20 years. That was our gift to the playa. We want to take this concept away from Burning Man, and go to a festival and serve soup and make money. That's what we're going to try and do this year. So in order for us to make money, we have to be a nonprofit. I'm kind of thinking. I'm not quite sure. So now we're in this thing of going beyond the playa with food. Yeah.
Are you ready for questions, or?
That's kind of what I would want to talk about.
Oh, are we going around first? What everyone?
I have no. Yeah, we just kind of like
we're kind
we
of
started
winging
in
it.
direction
We're
and
doing
then
whatever
changed
we want.
directions
Yeah.
and then started in something new entirely and then
We're
blew it all up.
winging
So,
it and doing what we want.
Letting it kind of have its own life.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
But I would say for fundraisers, yes, we have done many fundraisers in the past. Some of our most successful has been to take a house, take like breakfast, and everyone's going to pay $10 a head to have breakfast. And everyone comes together, they network. We don't make a lot of money, but the networking is phenomenal.
The relationship.
What we were discussing.
What we were discussing.
Yeah, what we're doing.
We've also rented out venues, brought in our entertainment. Same thing, it's almost impossible to make more than $1,200 at that, but the networking is so successful that your camp just does so good with the networking. And this time, from what we've heard from festivals, is a person who serves food, most basic, they're making $40,000. We've never opened this kind of door, and I also have a friend in Berkeley that is successfully helping people operate at festivals and sell food.
And they would be willing to.
And I meet with him next week. And then there's this whole kind of thing when it comes around food. So you can have a food kitchen, very expensive, a lot of permits, a lot of money. Or you can have a food cart. A lot of stuff goes, it's a lot easier to have a food cart. And a food cart just means whatever you're serving is on wheels. That's kind of the difference. And so that's kind of where I'm at. And I feel that by doing this, we will be taking Burning Man out of the playa. Does it end there? No. Because I've been with my community for 20 years, and I want to create an intentional community outside of even the festivals. So just because of circumstances, we have some land on the big island of Hawaii, and I want to create an intentional community there. And so this intentional community will be, people can go, it'll be an art garden. It'll be an art garden where you can spend the night in a boat or a container or whatever piece of art it is. You could vacation there. You can spend long times there. and we will create our intentional community based on the community of what we learned from Burning Man. So it'll be art garden, retirement, retreat, getaway. And that's what I want to do, because after 20 years of going to the playa, like now I'm at a point in my life where I'm thinking about the next chunk of time before I die. And the next chunk of time, like, I'm not going to be in a nursing home. No. You know, I want to be
Hawaii sounds so
Hawaii.
good.
And I want to be surrounded by art and maybe live music and some good people, good conversation, good food. So I once again think it's taking Burning Man out of the playa. You know, it's more than just a camp. But
Lisa,
we started.
I'm sorry. Did you say you fundraised before?
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
So, I'm listening to what you're talking about, and there's a lot of pieces that tie into what we're doing here. Clearly, there's fundraising, which is one issue that I know we've kind of talked about, and also getting people to volunteer and come back, because
Yes.
this project that you're talking about is going to need a lot of volunteers. And so we were having a conversation next door about, how to keep volunteers coming back year after year, and some of the things that go along with that. And the project you're talking about is going to be gargantuan, huge, and spread out over a lot of people. So for those that weren't in the thing next door, we had talked a little bit about how to create or how to recruit and find people to come and be volunteers. And there was kind of a whole range of referrals, which was really good. And I think your camp was really more aimed at referrals, because it's a very intimate kind of camp. All the way down the line to my project, which brings people in from all around the country that you may have not even met them until you get to an event or whatever. And recruiting on a big scale, which is what I do for my project. So I tend to throw out a big net and catch a lot of fish. So I had shared that I go on all the regional mailing lists, Facebook pages, any regional groups that I belong to, like South Bay Burners, East Bay Burners, whatever. There's, if you don't know the Burning Man and all our different methodologies for communicating, there's support a project, an e-playa, and you can put an ad in the Jackrabbit Speaks if you've got a project and you want to get something going. So that might be an option for you to go, I want to take this thing out into the world. Who else wants to help me do it? If you can get in on the Jackrabbit Speaks, and they're, I don't know how to say this, they're not that picky. Really, they'll let kind of anyone post the thing. Yeah, yeah, now, if you take the approach, what was your name again? Power Slash. I love that. Her approach and her team is very much referrals, right? So somebody, lots of interviews, because they're a very intimate camp, and that's a very time intensive, but probably gets really, really good results, right? Because you know the people then that you've interviewed with. My approach, when you throw the net out wide, then you got to figure out, how do I start culling?
Funnel.
You have to filter people off.
How do you filter? How do you funnel? And what I had shared in the thing next door for funneling for me is, my first layer is, if you're interested, great. Here's a little page. It's always a Google Doc. As you know, I'm huge on Googles now. Here's a Google Doc of my project and what it's about and what the expectations are. But here's the trick. When you get to the end of that document, there's a thing that says, if you've read this all the way through, text the word, I want to be part of the soup kitchen, to X phone number. So what you've done right there is found the people that actually read and follow directions. And that skims.
Give them a task.
Yeah.
See if they can
Give
complete the
an
task.
easy task.
That's a great idea.
See how that task works out for you. And now you've got some people that you know how to use a phone, know how to text. You start to see, and you may do this as an email. Send me an email. I've read your document, and here are the 3 questions I have about it, or something along those lines. There's an added benefit to doing it by email versus text, and that is, and this is going to sound horrible, but this is how I am. Do they use full sentences? Can they form a cohesive thought? These are things that are going to become very important when you're looking at volunteers and looking at getting them out to the playa, and then start to whittle on down from there. So my second layer is, once again, a Google Doc, and it's a survey. You can use SurveyMonkey. I think there's a couple others that have been used. And then you've got some questions that get into the things that you're really looking at to see if they can do the job, want to do the job, and are going to be good volunteers. And one of the things I shared next door was a lot of surveys that you see will go rank it on a scale of 1 to 5. That's pretty common, right? 1 being like, no, I'd never do that, and 5 being, yes, I do that all the time. And a lot of people will go right into that middle ground of 3, which tells you nothing. So you make it 4. You either have to skew towards the, I really always do this, or I never, ever do that. Whatever that is, good or bad. Also important, and there was a girl next door that said, make at least a couple of the questions a reverse. Don't make them all, so like the good answer is always 4. You know, I'm always a 3 or a 4. Make some of them reversed so that the good answer is a 1 or 2. So you have to make sure that they're reading. And so now they have to choose, I'm more on this side or I'm more on that side. And now they have to be reading that. And so now you've gone through, and this is mainly about making sure that the people you bring into your organizations are doing the things you want. And so you really want to think about what questions you're going to be asking. So if you're building a big triangle in the sky during the afternoon, you need people that show up on time. You need people that can work outside in the heat for 4 hours without taking a break. You need people that get along and collaborate well with others. You know, whatever those things are, build your questions around that. So then you can start drilling down. So those are some of the things I shared next door on how to reach out and find some people. So that'll help with your group. And then think carefully about how you start to get them through the funnel. And then it's about finding out what motivates them. And we talked about a lot of different things next door. My particular thing was the 5 love languages, right? So some people want to be told, you know, words of affirmation, you're doing a great job, I'm glad you brought this up. And some people want to be touched, right? What are some of the other ones?
Acts of
service.
Gifting is or service, yeah.
Acts of service. Go over. Let me bring you a glass of water. You talked about gifting. You know, you're making little T-shirts or your little we must have necklaces, right? And the final one.
What do we have so far?
Service, affirmation, touch.
It's the hard one. It's the one I always forget. Quality time.
Oh, quality time.
Quality time, right? And that might just be take your volunteer around back in the shade and say, let's just sit down and kind of chat for a minute. How you doing? Whatever.
Strike team goes to the hot springs in southern Oregon that are right on the way home
Together.
to Washington State together.
Oh,
That's pretty quality.
that's a
space.
quality time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And probably some physical time.
Nice decompression.
That's funny. We do something similar, and it's never been thought. We've never thought it out that way,
Mhm.
which is funny. But every year we always the strike group ends up at having a big, going to the steakhouse in Reno together and have a big, really amazing meal because we've been on the fly all week, and it's just like an opportunity to do the same thing for quality time.
Right.
Quality time. Let's just, for fun, because I don't know if, and anybody here in this room can feel free to stop me, take this discussion in another way, mention whatever you want to talk about, ask questions. I just kind of jumped in because we were all sitting here and it seemed like a thing to do. But while we're talking about the 5 love languages, why don't we talk a little bit about those and how you figure out what people's are?
I don't know.
You like that?
Let's do that.
Let's do that. How do you figure out what people are? So, yeah, go.
Do I smell? Do I offend?
God, you're so rude.
It was too dusty.
He's got other stuff to do, and he's realized that I'll sit
No,
here.
we
and-
got the better.
You just took over his thing.
I
mean,
did. I had in mind, taking over everything.
But
But-
it's fascinating.
We don't
All right.
seem to be an argument.
I know, right? So, words of affirmation. What is that? What is that to?
Thank you.
You're doing a great job.
You're doing a great job. What is it to you?
It's being not just told that you're doing a great job, but why you're doing a great job.
Good.
Because being general about, yeah, you're awesome, fantastic, so is everybody else in the playa, and we've been drinking lots of extra great. But hey, this is an amazing thing you've built, is a different sentence, and it's actually recognition of you as an artist, you as a builder, you as a person.
So I want to say that I appreciate you letting me put you on the spot there, because you haven't said much since I walked into the room. I don't know you, and I just asked you out of the blue, and you jumped in and answered, and that's great. So what I just did right there was an exact example of what he was speaking to. And this is important when you're talking about words of affirmation, which is giving people feedback in a way that they want to hear it, and that's specific, right? As opposed to, you're doing a great job, which is more like, here's specifically what you did, and here's why I appreciate it. So I tried to give back to him what I heard him say, which is a key component in showing how you care about people.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit around physical touch. What is it not?
Something that is given without consent.
All right, consent is really key, and consent is a big issue here at Burning Man, right?
May I give you a hug?
May I give you a hug? But what else is it not? What is physical touch is not? This is a tough one if you've read the book.
I've never read it.
I've read it twice, actually. So physical touch is not necessarily sex. And this is good when you're talking about men and women, because sometimes men are thinking, oh, we had sex. I gave her all the physical touch. So in the context of the 5 love languages, physical touch may just be, may I do this? May I
Oh
use
gosh.
you?
We got sex right here.
Well, that's escalated quickly. What's Burning Man?
This may be a fundraising opportunity. Just saying.
Alright.
By the way, this is being recorded, so everybody would
So physical
Disclaimer.
touch may not just be a hug, and a hug is a really big thing, and a lot of us like hugs. But you know what? A lot of people really don't like hugs.
true, yeah.
And it's not just a matter of consent or not consent.
You can keep doing that.
Oh, okay. So apparently I'm learning that she kind of likes.
You can go all the way up to
Right.
Physical touch. Hugs can be weird. Some people can have some people wear necklaces that scratch, right? Some people might have just had breast surgery. God knows, if you ever tried to hug me after I'd just gotten these puppies, I was like, back off. There can be lots of reasons people don't like the full-on hug,
Right.
but this can be just as important. So for some people, just coming up and sometimes you don't have to rub. Just sit there with your hand on them, and they're just like, I'm that person. I'm kind of physical touch and words of affirmation. So somebody comes out and does this, and I'm just like, anything you want, I'm all over it. So physical touch can be a lot of
Thank
different
you for letting
things.
me know.
Oh, okay. You're welcome.
Now I know how to get to
How to get her to do everything. Gifting. Gifting is one that's real fun in our community. So let's talk a little bit about gifting. And I always like to talk with what it's not, because what it's not is as important as what it is. So gifting does not have to be expensive, right?
It's not to
My
cost
favorite playa gift is carrying around a hip flask of whiskey.
Ooh, if you make that Captain Morgan, we can be best friends.
Usually I try to get a good whiskey. I have
Good whiskey.
done. I
not the
have
cheap
done 10-year run in my class from the Virgin Islands.
Right.
Someplace that was doing it for like 400 years or so.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's common, especially for people not in our community, to see gifting as commercial, right? Or as someone like, oh, she's only going to love me if I give her diamonds. And so I want to differentiate that gifting doesn't have to be expensive. a lot of times it's more the thought behind the gift. So I used to date a guy that was a gardener. And anytime he came to my house, he always brought flowers. Now, he may have picked them from the side of the road and they were dandelions and they were weeds. It did not matter. He always showed up with some little trinket. I have a handful of friends that are gifters. I was not grifters, gifters. And they always show up with these little tchotchkes. And I'm a minimalist, so I'm like getting rid of stuff in my house constantly. They show up with this little thing, and part of me is like, how fast can I get rid of this damn thing? You know? But it's, but that's how they show love. And so whatever little thing that they have, I hang on to and always try and make sure that I wear it when they're around, or put it out when they're coming over, or refer to it. Those earrings you gave me are the best. So gifting doesn't have to be expensive. It's more about the thought behind it. I see you have something to say.
Yes, so because I've been going to Burning Man so long, the early gifts were stories and jokes.
Oh,
That's a good gift.
Yeah, that was a gift.
That's still
It's
a
still a
good
gift.
Absolutely.
So I really appreciated getting over 50. And one of the things we don't hear in our culture is kind of how cool age can be. And so one year my gift was the story, Live to be 50. I met someone on the playa that was contemplating suicide.
Oh,
And so
wow.
that gift, that story, like Live to be 50, brought her to tears.
That's wonderful.
And so words can be a great gift.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Which one was next?
Oh, I don't know. Does anybody else want to talk more about gifting?
No. What, oh yeah.
Well,
yeah.
well,
No,
first
I
off-
was thought we were the which love language thing was next.
Oh, yeah. No, we'll get there.
Well, a
We
couple
got time.
things. First one is, if you have too many things that you're trying to get rid of, we accept donations that we then will turn into fundraising. But outside of that, what are your thoughts on tiered recognition within camp and public recognition within camp for people who go above and beyond, such as
I think it's great.
everything from we've considered but have not yet done things like medals for people who do insanely amazing things. Like we had people who randomly managed to come up with a crane in the middle of a build when our own equipment failed, and like somehow convinced DPW to show up and bring us plumbing for our gas equipment. So stuff like that. Have you, anybody in here have experience with that, and how did that go, and how did that impact your culture?
I want to hear everybody else's answers, and all I'm going to say before we go too far into it is I always look at how do they want to be recognized. For some people, give me that little trinket, oh my god, a necklace, and I will like jump somersaults for you.
And that's the gifting.
Because
Yes.
Right, in the love.
okay, Burning Man, I want the fucking swag, man.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
And for some people, bringing them up and giving them the thing on stage and saying thank you, if they're an introvert,
That would freak me out.
they're
Right.
gonna freak them out. So let's let the rest of the crowd talk.
So, there's a lot of, I've heard a lot of people discuss this in the last day, and I've heard a lot of I've heard people who actually do somewhat negative enforcement, which I found to be kind of
The whole shaming
counterintuitive to what we do here at Burning Man. But there was and we've done some similar things, but there was a woman yesterday in one of the other groups that said, we made sashes just like the ones in beauty pageants. Did you hear about her? Did you hear that?
No.
And they're all, each one's one of the 10 principles. We actually did 10 principles sashes.
Nice.
And we hung them up just kind of behind the bar or whatever, and didn't even tell anybody what they were. And anybody in camp could really gift this to anybody else when they see, and that's empowering everybody to be part of the recognition process, right? So, it's kind of self-explanatory. If you see somebody that
Picking
is
up
doing a
trash.
great job, give them this thing. They don't even have to keep it. They wear it for the day. Tomorrow you could give it to someone else. But to me, it's a positive reinforcement. And also, there are people who will go above and beyond because that is what they want. That is the recognition, the type of recognition they want. It may not work so much for the introvert, right? So you got to maybe find multiple ways of doing this.
Yeah.
And if the introvert, maybe you do need to pull them aside and say, hey, we'd really like you to help What do you think you'd like to work on?
The one, they're the
What's
ones
that?
that likes to give the recognition. Maybe the introvert.
Yeah, maybe the introvert wants to be the one to give the recognition. Who knows?
That way they don't have the attention.
As long as that comes with a tiara, I'm really.
Yeah.
So,
I think it needs to be both. So that's my
I
personal.
think a big part of one of the things I mentioned this in one of the previous things, and I don't have the page open, but I'm gonna try to go off. A big part of leadership in general and all these things, right, is, and the biggest parts of being a leader, being a CEO, being anything, even a Burning Man, is recognizing talent, right? So you need to recognize who's going to do a better job than you at whatever it is that you need done. That's the first step in this, right? Recognize that person and empower them and let them take over and do it, and then let them kind of come back and, and see how it does, and then get feedback and communicate, and then go back and readjust.
I think Josh needed to hear that before he left.
I think Rachel wanted to speak up, but she's kind of.
Yeah, I've had it go both ways. So I've had it be really successful, and I've had it be a disaster that had a negative impact on the culture.
Are you talking about the ranked thing or the bringing them up? What things are you talking about?
Recognition.
The recognition.
Oh, tell us
Recognition.
about it.
Okay,
Yeah,
tell us.
Yeah. So I also have a background in nonprofits where recognizing volunteers was part of my day job. So one of the things that can happen with recognition is that if you're coming from a culture of deficit where it's a reaction to we need to keep people motivated and we need to recognize and that type of thing, then what that does is it reinforces some negative toxicity that's going on in your culture already. Because then people that feel, well, I did all this stuff a year ago and I didn't get recognized and now this person's getting this recognition, and it can happen. So it can have a negative effect. The best things that I've seen is when it becomes more collaborative, like you were talking about, when people can actually give out the recognition and feel empowered that way. But that can also create cliquishness.
Oh, yeah.
So they're also,
I'm hearing the prom queen
Yeah.
here.
So the best structure that I've found, especially with my Burning Man camp, is that we have a camp mascot called Butt Plug, and Butt Plug is a little
Butt
character.
Plug?
Yeah, Butt Plug always makes you feel better. And Butt Plug gets passed around, so it's a little teddy bear, and Butt Plug stays in our camp. Yeah.
With some sanitary.
Right, but y'all are laughing right now, so it works. So it adds a little bit of levity to it, but the teddy bear stays within the camp. So it doesn't become anybody's property, but people add to it almost like a totem or a talking stick. So Butt Plug has weird necklaces and stuff sewn to them, and just
Cool.
just becoming a real Burning Man character in and of itself. And then Butt Plug goes back in our camp gear, so it doesn't go home with anybody.
Yeah.
But then we also had stickers printed that say "Doing It Right," and we give out 3-ish, anywhere from 1 to 5 a day. At dinner time, because we have a camp dinner, and it's specifically for people doing it right. So somebody that went and materialized a crane for you when you need it, that's super great. But also taking somebody to Rampart can be doing it right.
Yeah.
But then also the person that went to Rampart was doing it right because they were going hard. So we take some of those things that could potentially be shameful and celebrate them.
Yeah.
Because we had
I like
somebody that
that.
broke a collarbone, and because he was racing up and down the street on a one wheel, buck ass naked,
Doing it
and
right.
then went flying, and all right, you're doing it right, dude. Yeah.
Yep.
So it changed your burn. So those are some things to kind of think about, and then anybody can nominate somebody for doing it right.
Yeah.
Kelsey, did you want to jump in there?
Yeah, but she was saying that she totally the direction I was going to go as well. It's I think the larger way to state it is thinking ahead of time about how your recognition, whichever of the 5 languages you're going for, is going to affect the people around you. With touch, I have a friend who likes to come and hug me. I never thought anything about it. We used to hug before we went to Burning Man together. Now he comes over, visits me, gives me a hug. And one person who was around me was like, your friend, it makes me a little uncomfortable. I'm like, why? Well, he only ever hugs you. And I was like, that's weird. I never thought about it. And then I went and asked him, I told my friend, hey, so-and-so is here. And he's like, oh, you mean the guy who hugs you all the time? I'm like, wait, how long has this been going on? I know that he loves me very much. We are platonic buddies of love and hugs. But apparently, because it's only ever aimed at me, it's weird for everybody.
Oh, good.
And like you were saying,
Well,
with
they're
the,
just
like recognizing certain people with things, like we have had a thing where our leads aren't recognizing each other. Like we had a big art car build, and one of our leads made a bunch of, I guess they were patches or stickers or something, for people who had super hyper contributed to this, and gave them to everybody who wasn't a lead, when all the leads had huge amounts of work onto the car, and all the leads were kind of like, ouch, man, what the hell. So yeah, definitely thinking about all aspects, like who is witnessing what you're doing,
Yes. And who's
and how
feeling
does it
like
affect them.
they've contributed, but their brand of contribution,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
We should not let
The
anybody
world
out.
rewards the prom queens, the extroverts, and all the rest of that. But a lot of times, it's the quiet guy in the background that's really making it all happen.
Yeah, and we were really careful not to reward prep work off playa. It was basically our recognition started when the whole camp was together, but we also have people from all over the world too.
Well, why is that?
I can see that being
Yeah, I mean, I would include all the work that
And you
happens
can, that was a decision that we made
Okay.
because it's out of whack. Like the people, because we're based in Seattle, we've got about 75% of our camp that's international.
Yeah, same as us.
So it's, recognizing, everybody knows that the kitchen lead that put everything together spent, 150 hours doing that.
Right.
Like,
And I think if that's made public,
right.
right, we start
If they
from
want it to
zero.
be, like, I don't like to be the center of attention I would be horrified. Don't
Yeah.
put me up. But I'm an extrovert.
I
don't talk about my accomplishments in public.
Our two
No, thank
blonde
you.
prom queens over here want to talk.
Yeah, thanks. This is all, so just by the way, I'm Miss Kitty, I'm with Bioluminati, so we're the Pimp Your Bike camp. And
Oh,
so, we put a lot in, and what it means is like, we have people from camp, we've got huge variation in levels of kind of contribution of time and so on. Do you guys, this is a little off topic, but I'm just wondering with your off playa, now I'm on this off playa, on playa theme. We have so many people who do things in the Bay Area off playa, and then other people kind of come in from Seattle. Okay. and we were trying to figure out, somebody even suggested logging hours. Like, I know, I said, you heard the way I said it. There's a
ways
way
do
to
things.
track, so all these people who are doing stuff off playa aren't then also pulling all the weight, because that's what happens, on playa as well. And that there's some we do this in all different ways, because we have people do the bike mutation station, and so people are kind of logging hours there, and other people are doing setup or takedown. But if people are just kind of showing up and not doing so much, how do we track that? Do you guys do anything? You have any?
So are you a 501c3?
Yeah.
Then you can get in trouble for labor violations. So we don't track hours because of that, because of labor laws.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
you gave me this whole okay.
There's the answer.
Yeah.
There it is. Okay,
Yeah.
so without tracking out, so let's just throw that
That's just not gonna, we're not.
out. Throw that out.
How many people are in?
Well, we usually have about 45 on playa, but it's obviously varies every year. We've got kind of a core of 25 or 30.
Do you find that, I'm just curious,
Yeah.
because this relates to us, do you find that there's a necessity to do that, what you're asking? Really think about it.
Why were they tracked?
Why do you need to do that?
I
Well-
say always ask the question, what problem am I
Yeah,
trying
what
to
problem
solve?
Yeah, so this is more, when you have people who are maybe new to camp, you have some people who are new to camp who are like rock stars, like, oh my God,
Sure.
please come back to our camp, and other people,
Sparkle donkeys.
oh, yeah, and we had, and particularly when somebody has a wedding in the camp and the sparkle ponies come in, and like, they're making me clean, like, but so they're not
Those
invited
are
back,
ponies,
like,
those are ponies.
you resolve that, like, they're not coming back, but I worry more about the people who end up not being, almost wanting, I want to protect these people who are putting in all the time, who don't get to go off and have fun because they're working all the time.
That's in camp or off playa?
It's
Yes.
once we're in
Yes.
camp, once we're out there, the same people who've like done all the work
oh, you just fire them once you get on Playa. I fire my whole crew on Sunday.
You're all fired.
You're fired.
You're fired.
You're fired.
We
Go.
fire them.
You fire them with love and light.
I think that's
Oh my
awesome.
God.
Get
Yes.
the fuck
You're
out.
fired. Go be
That
Like
is-
I watched
I love
the
that.
first time it
Okay,
happened
that's
to
really
me.
good.
Like
By the way, you're all fired.
the
Wow,
lead,
this is
the
good.
camp lead, the first year I camped with Space Virgins, the lead walked up to me because I'd done kitchen and helped with transpo, was early arrival, like busted in, right? And he walks up to me and goes, "You're fired." And I was like, "Wait, the
What
kitchen's
did I
not
do
done.
wrong?
Like,
Yeah.
what did I do?" And he's like,
Yeah.
"Get the fuck out. Go to
Go have
Celestial Bodies.
Yes.
You're fired." And I was like,
Go get your plan.
"Oh,
I like
party.
that.
Okay, yes."
I think that
And I
Jill
still
wanted
did
to-
my 2 shifts after that, but I was like, whatever. I had this big, yeah, it was great.
Okay, that's
Fire.
All right, Jill, I think you've been wanting to jump in.
Oh, to your question, we do a layered cake approach. So we have the 365 days a year burner
Nice.
council that does all of the everything. There, we build, we do the paperwork, we do the logistics and the ordering and everything. So there's a small group of people that do that. Then on Playa, we have completely separate camp leads that alternate days so that they get to have fun.
So the people who are doing the all year
I know,
stuff
isn't
do
this
not
fun?
do the stuff on Playa?
They build. We all
Okay.
build. We all do shifts and the games and everything like that, but responsibility, we go to the bottom of the ranks, right? So we have shifts, but we don't have to do stuff, organize stuff, plan stuff, lead stuff, nothing.
How many people in your camp?
We go up to 120 people.
What's
we
the
have
name of it?
Orphan Endorphin.
Oh, you guys were right.
So we have
I have it down.
11 elders, right, that work all year. One of those elders will be the lead for setup, and one will assist the teardown crews. Those are the 2 teams, just so that the planning continues all year.
Right.
On Playa, we have 2 leads. They can pick the days based on their schedules and what kind of fun activities they want to do, what days they're going to lead. They are the point people for all campers and all team leads. We have 5 teams that are operational, and they're responsible for their volunteers. And so it's a tiered approach so that there's always, you can only remember 7 numbers, right? That's why phone numbers are 7, right?
Mhm.
So you can only really remember 7 campers.
Plus or minus.
That's it, right? And so we try and make it so that there are these small groups that do things,
Like
and they
cells.
they create their own groups, tiers, parties, and that's where the responsibility lies. So that elders burn, planners burn, leads burn, and team leaders burn. And the way we create succession planning is it's a set process. You come in, you're a Bergen and a Virgin, or you're from another camp, and you're going to camp with us. You get part of one of these little groups. If you are attentive to us, so if I'm running interactivity and you are attentive to me and my needs as the lead, I'm going to be like, you know what? Why don't you help me? And I spend the whole time grooming you to be me next year, right? You're going to be my interactivity lead because I need somebody who's like me to take on that role. And then I am now freed up to potentially be asked to become a camp lead. And a camp lead has to have their wits about them. I think that this is our big thing. And the ability to be sober at times. Because of the fact that there's a lot of responsibility and dangers that can happen at a camp.
Danger at Burning?
Danger.
I've seen some stuff.
There's no danger.
And then once they've been a camp lead, then we discuss it on Playa on Sunday after the man burns. We're all having a really great time, and we're all just very chill. We start talking about all of the people that we've met as elders, who is really fucking cream. We want that cream. We want that frosting. Are you coming back next year? Are you interested in becoming an elder and really starting to help make and formulate the decision process for this? Because I need to send some of my elders to Shady Pines. Shady Pines, right?
Retirement home.
They still get to be part of the camp. They still are part of the process. They still get to build, but now they don't have to do the paperwork and the ordering and the U-Haul thing that's turned into a big, huge fucking disaster and going to Total Wine and stuff. They get to be old and burn and still part of our family. So our process continuously empowers, as you use that word, empowers people to run the camp. So I make we things. I go out in the world and I try and find things that symbolize or look like we, whether it be at a craft store or anything. And I personally gift my introverts we things, right? So instead of recognizing their effort as you did, we did.
Ah.
Here is your we, because we are all together. We are doing this. Here's your we, and they take it with them, whether it's
What do you
something
mean, like, yeah.
like
Yeah.
an actual. Well, one time, me and my daughter.
Yeah, what is this thing?
What? One year, I did
Show
the
me a
actual word we. My daughter and I, she was 9 at the time, we etched burning into it, and so it had a little burnt man in it, and we painted it, and we would hand the person the actual word we.
Okay.
One year, I did the coordinates for our camp, our exact coordinates. I had those made, and we hand did those, and I would hand them the bracelet to invite them back to be part of we next year. And so it's symbolic of what the we is. It changes, and it's not a platform. It's really just me talking to you about what we did. You know, because sometimes when you have a camp and you have a lot of people that don't know who the leaders are, and you can be like, oh, there's Jill over there, she runs the camp. They could be intimidated by me. I'm not anybody. You know, I am just absolutely nothing.
No,
I
you're
am here
intimidating,
just
trust me.
facilitating our time. This is our time. You're doing this. And so sometime during the week, I want to recognize the we. That it's not just me and what I do off playa. It's really what we did here, what you did today, but we did. Because everything I did up to this point leads to the we that has created this moment. Because I find that Burning Man is the we, the us, and the I, right? We do things for us, and it creates joy inside I. You know, I feel that I'm gifting, right? So that's one of the things that we do is not, we don't have anything that we give. We just personally recognize people for their effort, and we empower them to take our camp across the nation. So we have Orphan Endorphin in many regionals, and I don't have anything to do with it because they are completely capable of leading that group and just taking the principles with them and the things that we have created and having a great brand there. So
Did
that's
we
how
answer
do
your
it.
question, by the way?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Imagine that.
I like what you're saying about succession, and I mean, I was in charge of the bike mutation, and then they said, you should be lead, and I'm like, okay, and I was like, oh wait, I gotta do all this, so I did the same thing, like, okay, you're awesome, how about you take this over? And so we've done that. I also have somebody who I need to take off, by the way, of a treasurer job, and he will not let, I mean, it's like he's doing too many things, and so I'm trying to keep going, oh, so
Yeah.
I'm asking, but what?
Fire him.
I've really tried. Like, you know, you've got this going on.
Sometimes it
like,
doesn't take.
So now
Yeah, right.
I like basically have somebody else working with them. So I'm going to ask both of them. Well, can you give both of you give me the budget, not just you, but both of them. So there's some other kind of sticky things with people who won't leave their.
Kind of when they tried.
You
tried
can't get
make
them to shake
Sheldon-
hands.
What?
When they tried to make Sheldon take a vacation.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it would be better for all of us if there was, yeah, and it's succession planning too, because when you have somebody, particularly as treasurer, who's been dealing with books forever and it's sticky. So I'm working through that one as
Right.
well.
And we've had to ask people to leave. It's not the best conversation. One was a Me Too situation. One was a founder who went a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And that conversation is very difficult, but it's we, you know, and if there's an impact that is stopping we, then that conversation needs to be had. There could be change in that person, but there might not. But we're working on this. It's my vacation. I don't get a lot of vacation time. How do I pair vacation and dedication into one thing? And that's making it easy for people. It has to be easy. If you feel like anybody in this room feels like they're doing too much, then you need to start laying things on the table, write it down, the things you enjoy doing that are your responsibilities, the things you are all right with doing, and the things that this is what pains you. There is a person on this planet, maybe in your camp, that really enjoys doing that thing. I don't like doing the stuff that Captain Ron does. Screw it. I'm not gonna write all that down. That's not my job.
So I have a quick question, just to take this in a totally sort of different direction, because you mentioned something. How many here have ever worked for a group where you had to fire the founder?
Kind of.
Or been involved in it? Yeah, okay. So
Kind of, yeah.
you're looking at me like,
It's interesting because our consent, for one of the camps I'm involved with, our consent committee is kind of looking into something where one of our members had very difficult interactions with our camp founder. And they went to them and said, no, some of this was not cool. And I have to kind of agree. Some of this was a case where they were sold a bill of goods. This is for,
so I
I'm
think.
part of 2 camps.
Oh,
actually, so.
well, look at you being
You're involved in campers.
bicamptual.
Yes.
He didn't have enough responsibility.
Yeah, right.
And yeah, that's a really hard place to be.
That's a hard place to be. So who else? I just kind of want to hear some stories.
So our
How do you fire a
last
founder?
founder was, this is very fascinating. That's when I joined the camp, she was the founder. And she was a great, she operated the camp very well. That's there's no doubt about that. But she did it all herself, everything. And she was the type of person who would not allow others to do anything. And she would kind of let you do a little bit, but wouldn't give you enough information so that later she can put you down and show you what a shitty job you do so that she could do it and basically make herself feel better.
I just saw some eye rolls out of Kelsey over there.
So one
Been there?
year she completely melted down. She had the breakdown, tear down, whatever you want to call it, and completely lost her marbles. That was it. Like, that was the end. Nobody fired. She wasn't fired.
Right.
She
quit.
She quit.
Oh boy.
And appropriately was fired at the same time, because nobody would ever wanted her back at that point. Luckily, there was, and this can go into a lot of detail. I've spent a lot of time the last 2 days watching people in these extreme structures they have. We were almost asked to speak because we're a camp that's a very long, this is, just as Hair of the Dog were 21 years, we go back even closer to 28 or something like that, from the lineage to like the early camps and stuff. But we're a camp where we have very little in the way of structure. I mean, 90% of what I hear we've never had, and we've never needed. Like, it just works, and people just do what they're supposed to do. We don't have shifts, we don't have anything, it happens. I don't know why, don't ask. We've been asked to potentially talk about why it works, and we don't know. We can't quantify it. But what happened is once Randy Dell picked up the mayor's torch, and he is 180 degrees different as a leader, and he's a highly effective leader. And this is why. He doesn't have an ego about what he does. He knows when he doesn't know something, and he absolutely knows how to empower people to do things. And for some reason, everybody around him wants to help, and everybody wants to do something, and everyone wants to get involved. And everybody just kind of lifts and does what they're good at, and it seems to just happen and work. And with that type of leadership, things have been growing even in a better way. So now we're here, I'm thinking about certain types of structures that we never thought of, such as disaster planning. What happens when somebody says they were touched or something in the wrong way at our camp? How do we handle this? We never thought of this before. Are you kidding me? How do we handle this, that, one thing, another? So now it's getting to the point where we're like, we're looking at future-proofing things, right? Which we never did before. I'm very fascinated by watching how many extremely difficult structures are set up to do things, and sometimes you're too smart by halves. Like, sometimes it's too much. You don't need to do. That's why I asked you earlier, is there a problem you're solving? Because if you're a camp of 30 whatever people, it might be that's not the biggest problem in the world at all. Ask yourself how much time you have, and ask yourself how much you want to dedicate to the biggest problems you have versus things that may not even be problems versus things you want to improve and get better at, right? And at the end of the day, as far as firing goes, that's what happened. I mean, we fired. Now nobody wants to fire him. everybody loves what's going on, but he's succession planning now, right? So he's ready. He's like, I can do this for 3 or 4 years. I've
Yeah,
taken
then
on.
I'm gonna do
And so
that.
now we're starting to take more from him away because he's asking,
Right.
saying we need people to do this, and some people are like, I'll take that, I'll take that, I'll take that. So that in the next year or two, he can stop and do what you're saying is like retire and not burn out.
I took a year off, it was great. And I go to Hair of the Dog because I'm the most comfortable at your camp.
Why, thank you very much.
No.
We're happy to
I
have
go to
you.
Harry's Dog because you let me bartend.
Because I bartend?
No, because I get to bartend.
Oh, you get to bartend. Many
I think
visitors
that's
like to
why
bartend.
the board that works so well is you let just total,
Yeah.
you let everybody else do
We
it.
have
work.
lots of guest bartenders.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
To make
yeah.
the
Well, let me tell you,
weekend best.
there were many
you guys
years
bartended
we
at
were
Fundraising?
right across the street from them. It's like, where are these guys from our camp? Always.
Always.
They're always.
You're not DPW.
They're always over there. It's like I knew exactly. I just walked.
You know
across the
why
street.
we're always in the same place, by the way? Do you know the story? Like, we
No.
got moved 1 year, a couple years ago, and we got moved straight back. And the reason we are there is because if we're not, DPW complains. And when they complain, we get moved straight back because we're a full liquor bar that serves 24 hours a day.
Right.
Whatever the fuck you want to drink. We have people who come to the bar and they stay there all week. They don't
Yeah.
burn. They actually just hang out like it's
Right.
a dive bar at home. Why did you come to Burning Man?
Crazy.
If you want to just hang out at a dive bar, like
We
go
get
do
that.
things.
Dive
Well,
bars,
except
man.
they don't have to pay. They don't have to pay.
They don't have to pay. Oh, they paid to get here. Like it's not cheap. So yeah, but and then I hear these stories, and we hear a lot of these stories where it's like, we hear stories where it's like you're the first stop we do before we leave, before we go out, or you're the last stop. And those types of things reinforce what you do. Like when you have those, which love language is that? Like that to me, when I hear that, that makes me want to do better.
Words of affirmation.
That's like
Right.
amazing. Like that's incredible. But
I want to comment on the firing, which is we had to deal with this past year of somebody who is like one of not founder but one of the original camp members who came back and was really inappropriate with several different women, and people complained, and so we did all these interviews, and it was kind of this sticky thing because I've got to say, I had other people doing the interviewing, so it wasn't me, like saying you're done, and then we kind of had a council discussion about how to deal with this, and we got one guy, same guy on the council who's like, well, in fact, one time on the play, he said, well, what was her problem? Like, wait a minute, you were not making the victim, who had to go like sleep somewhere else so this guy wouldn't come creep on her. I mean, it's so weird. So we told him he couldn't come back. He could come visit the camp with an escort, and so this was all communicated to him, and then he wrote back something like, I'm just, looking for love and all this kind of stuff. Like, he never apologized. He never said, I'm so sorry that they felt this way. It was more like the sorry, but so sorry no one understands me, kind of thing. Like,
Well, that
so
leads us into a whole nother
Yeah, that's-
discussion.
Right.
Is
Things have
where
changed.
is well, radical inclusion. So one of our 10 principles is radical inclusion,
I
right?
agree with that.
Who hasn't struggled with this one when you've got that person? And this kind of
Yeah.
one of the things, that line in the sand. Where is that line in the sand? And I think we're all in agreement that sexual assault is that line in the sand that you don't cross.
safety. If I don't feel safe, if I have people in my camp
Mm-hmm.
who don't feel safe around another camp member, that's a deal breaker for me. And so that doesn't always have to be assault. That could be.
Well,
I
okay,
think
but
there's
let's-
subtlety there. That
There's
There's a
doesn't-
subtlety,
subtlety
so-
there. This is an interesting
not always.
one because
I don't think it always should work that way.
every
So-
now
Because-
and then you're getting on right because let's just say there's a guy and we have one in our camp. We A6'd him that he just was creepy. And we all know
Oh, we have a super
women we know creepy.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
he was
don't
like
want missing top steps
Yeah.
in your camp because that you have to do the whisper network around, right?
right?
Yeah.
But he was like, I haven't touched anybody.
Yeah, like
What's the deal?
missing step.
And we're like, you don't really actually have to have touched anybody to make them feel creepy. And he's like, but here's the thing. I know him pretty well and he didn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I am
So
in that
if it
situation.
bothers some people
Right.
but not
One of these
others.
Yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I know, maybe I have a different relationship with him, but I've hung out with him. He's like one of my best friends. We've camped together. I've slept in the same bed with him. I hear you. He says some stuff that make you go, that's just fucking stupid or creepy. But he doesn't bother me at all. So now you do get into some real gray areas.
So this is something that this week I've been thinking about, and I'll tell you. Do you guys remember? Were you guys all at the opening thing? Mm-hmm. The opening thing. So there was a woman who got up there and said,
Yes,
"Do you remember this?" She said that there was an instance in our camp where a girl came and said that she was sexually molested or whatever. And I sat down with her and went through the criteria of what it was that happened, and we discovered she was not sexually. This happened to us, where the police came. The police actually arrested the guy. They interviewed everybody. It didn't happen at our camp, interestingly enough. They met at our camp, went somewhere else. They were people at our bar. Yeah. Met, went somewhere else. She said something happened to her, she didn't remember. So the police ended up in our camp. This was last year, basically in the back of our camp where we don't want police, interviewing and all this stuff. And eventually what happened was they decided that's not at all what happened. She was kind of not telling, her understanding of what had happened was not correct.
Careful on how much eye contact you have with one person.
Okay. So what this led for me to think about, like today or this week was, and this had to do with the disaster planning was, it led me to think about, we need to have a definition and a defined thing written down for us of what this type of stuff means, so that when it happens, we have something to look at. We need to.
I'm one of the leading consent educators in the country.
Go for it, bro.
Yes.
Sorry.
Go you.
Yes.
I have because I didn't come in here to do it. You are absolutely right, and so I work for a nonprofit called the Consent Academy, and I helped with the Seattle dumpster fire Me Too situation that happened, and we created the Radical Accountability Council out of that. So I've also been doing training with the Rangers and all kinds of stuff. So I've been doing consent education since 2015. Formally with Consent Academy. I'm their deputy director. So we have co-authored a book. We're in the final stages of editing. I've got some postcards if you want more information about it. But it does define. So the basic tenets of consent that we teach, we don't go in and tell people how to do consent, because you kink shaming me for liking to go out and get sloppy drunk because I identify as a swinger and then go fuck people. Well, yeah, I'm gonna play while I'm intoxicated, and if you want to take that mitigated risk with me, then that's an agreement between us. So we're really trying to look at the culture of a camp and not tell you how to do consent, because you may have a different idea of what consent is and have consent frameworks built around what your campers' interactions are. So one of my partners had what they called affirmations at camp, and they would go, hey, do you want an affirmation? They'd be like, yeah, I do. And it's a booty squeeze, okay? So that is language that's defined within their camp. It's blanket consent, and it's a consent framework. That is not a violation. They would then make sure that people were enculturated as they were coming into the back parts of the camp to say, we do affirmation. This is what happens here. If someone asks you if you want affirmation, it means a booty squeeze. If you don't want it, say no. So you have to have that common language. So we talk about capacity, information, agreement, and autonomy. So those are the 4 pillars of consent that we teach, and everything fits under those basis.
And repeat those 4 again.
So CIA, be your own investigation, Central Intelligence Agency, capacity, informed, agreement, and autonomy. So autonomy is kind of the overarching blanket of it, because with a power dynamic, exactly what you're talking about. Is the gentleman that you're talking about a neurotypical? Does he have some sort of processing issue? People can be a creep for a lot of different reasons, and having that language is not necessarily appropriate to generate that in a whisper network if someone hasn't actually done something, because what you're doing is you're alienating them from their social circle, and they've done psychological and social research on this. It is like being killed. It is cutting them off from their social network. It's cutting them off from trying to get love. So it may sound like an excuse, but that person was an acute trauma reaction, and by him reacting that way, he's like, I don't even know what I did. Like, educate me. So where's our responsibility? And what I'm developing a class called Radical Accountability, or Transformative Accountability. And it's about looking at the accountability of everyone involved. So not just the person who's accused of being the perpetrator, because then we create this villain-victim scenario, and then sometimes the villain becomes the victim because they keep going after. So where's our responsibility as an organization, as facilitators, as leaders, to be able to take accountability for our actions within those scenarios, with the policies that we write? You know, what is our camp culture? And yes, as far as like consent stuff, you should have something written down, because then there's a litmus, there's a line. And are you dealing with intergenerational language? You know, are you dealing with somebody who's 65 compared to somebody who's 25? Millennials and baby boomers don't communicate the same way. So how do you cross that bridge? Because that only enriches them in the long run. So.
Rachel, so part of this also had to do, it wasn't just a consent issue. I thought about this as like, we have a strong camp culture. We've been around a long time, but we've never articulated our camp culture. Believe it or not, we've never had anything written down. If you ask somebody, they'd be like, oh, we're a bar, we do this. So this week I was like, we need to write this down. You know why I thought we need to write this down? Because specifically to acculturate new members, if we don't have it written down as expectations, then when we have to, which we've never kicked anybody out, but when we need to kick someone out, we need to be able to say, you didn't do this that you agreed to.
Yeah,
so
we do.
It also led with the consent thing. I was like, it's the same thing.
But
like,
that's
we need
consent.
to know.
Yeah, that's consent. And our 10 principles are all consent agreements that we have with our bigger culture. So I've been teaching a class for about 2 years that specifically consent for leadership. And it is specifically for people that find themselves in a leadership position accidentally. You know, it's like we're not the CEOs that are going after it. We just didn't step back fast enough.
How did that get here?
Yeah, because you have a lot of blind sides. You know, the people that are working 150 hours to get your kitchen up and running. You know, I did a lot. Like, I have a sense of entitlement that could be a blind spot for me and how I interact with other people. And then people also will put you up on a pedestal, and they're star fuckers, like people that want to fuck the leadership. And how do you mitigate that, and how do you look at that as a blind spot? So
do you mean fuck with them or fuck
no,
them?
actually fuck them.
Like
like a power dynamic.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a power trip.
Like groupies.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Yeah.
Funny, we haven't experienced that one yet. That's interesting.
Yeah,
as
like,
far as I
that
know.
nobody can
we
talk about.
haven't experienced that one yet.
You need bigger labels that says
you haven't been in charge.
So what you're saying is you're asking for karma to open.
No. We don't.
So,
I
too,
think
by
we just have
creating like a
equal
safe, this actually
situation.
goes back to secession and stuff like that. If leaders have a line of, you know, this is how we do things. If there is a problem, then they're going to be more likely to feel secure in their leadership and be able to step up, because it's like, okay, if I do have to deal with this, then I know that there's a certain, you know, way that we do this. We have a path, we have a plan, and it's consistent. And then that way you're not playing favorites. So if somebody, you know, is a camp leader, okay, well, we've got this group over here that's going to take a look at like how this got here and what's the responsibility of the camp leader, and letting the person who is accused of something have their process, not taking that initial reaction. Because like, imagine if you're in their shoes and somebody comes up to you and goes, hey, so we got a report about blah, 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 and you know, you're this horrible person and we're thinking about kicking you out. How are you going to react?
Yeah.
Like, whoa, wait a minute. Okay, give me a hot minute, and you may not react well.
So I want to stop here for just a second.
Yep.
We've got about 10 minutes before everybody else does whatever. How is for those people
in their own privacy of their own tents. They can
right. So Rachel just laid a whole bunch of stuff on us.
I know, and I'm really
Yeah.
sorry. It really
No,
is.
it's
really important.
And I want to know if anybody is sitting there going, or if everybody's going, because there's a thing that we're all having to start to deal with of he said, she said, he's the perpetrator.
Yep.
But then again, maybe he was misjudged. And I think I'm going to maybe throw my head over a guillotine here. But typically, you're going to find women's conversation and women talk around these things happen to women. And you typically more likely to hear men talk about he got accused but wasn't.
Yes, that's correct.
All right?
That's why I was thinking, I heard her use that example, I thought it was a great point.
Right? And so, based on what she said, how is everybody feeling? Like, wow, that's really cool, or I got some stuff to think on.
We are a camp, this is gonna be our second year, and so immediately with the speaker from the other day, but also all of the information, we are really looking to get things on paper, but for the preventative, you know, every crisis that was laid out this week, and it was just like, oh my gosh, where's our policy? And so it's not fuck, it's a, oh, yeah, fuck yeah, kind of like, that's our next steps, and it's nice to see people kind of being on the same page, whether it's a 30-year camp or a second-year camp, being like, okay, here's where the meetings of the minds come in, and we pull in the consent for the policy. We had a camper that didn't end up camping with us that they, their first question was, you know, can I be nude at the camp?
Can you be what?
Nude.
Oh, nude, yeah.
And so we were like, as a virgin burner, we were, you know, he was, you know, not knowing what he was asking, we were like, oh. So we had to then start asking the other 8 people, I think that, you know, there wasn't many, but it started creating that, okay, why is he asking? What's he bringing with him to the Burning Man? And it was fortunate that he ended up not bringing that or himself to Burning Man, so.
And there's a whole lot of assumptions, right, that go into your head with, why is he asking? Is he one of these guys that's never been able to be naked and this is like the greatest thing? And you're like, oh, just fucking settle down. It's just a body, you know.
Exactly.
Just don't shirt
That's
cock.
it, that's
Right?
Actually
say
do
no.
shirt cock if it's
Yeah,
an
you-
Instagram post.
There you
Yeah.
go.
And without that context, yeah, he was.
But
that
it
was
may have,
exactly
he may have
correct.
been coming from a whole different place. He may have been raised in a
Nudist
clothing optional
girl.
family, and that's something that's important to him, and we take it in a whole different direction. Which can get to kind of like the people that make you feel creepy and you're not sure why. Sometimes there's an assumption around what we think they're meaning or saying or doing and why.
So I was going to say that we, in dealing with this whole situation with this one camper, we did add something to policy, and that we dealt with everything off Playa as well, and we had, he's in Seattle and has a good, you know, his basically good friend from the camp worked with him through all of this and did the interviews with the women, and you know, so it was, I mean, I needed to not be the person kind of bringing that down. It was like more his close friend, so he feels safer with him. And I agree. The last thing I want is that kind of exchange of now this perpetrator is the victim, because that is tough. Like when you're shut out, and I feel bad for him because this is community for him, and yes, I mean, so that's a challenge. But we did put something in our policies, and we have all kinds of policies, and that, you know, we try to adhere to, that we have written down. Yeah.
Go.
So my brain is all over a lot of what you guys have said, because in default world I work at a defense attorney's office. We do criminal defense, and a lot of cases that come through the door will be, you know, we'll have a guy, he has shot someone. And then as the months go on, we're reading his letters to his wife. We find out he had these horrible situations growing up, and there were other things that came into this person shooting this person. So in the end, what is actually just and actually healing for everybody, like the victims, you know, people around that, people who witnessed it, people who are involved, the whole organization, leadership is going to be something in the middle, because you're going to look at, you know, maybe this person can reform their actions, maybe they will understand more. The victim, it might actually feel better, like as someone who's gone through some really scary shit, it might feel better to like understand and see that person become a better person, rather than just shut it out and you shut the process of your own healing out the door. All right, trying to abbreviate all of that.
No, that's
Isn't that the concept of like reconciliation?
Yeah,
Like,
Restorative justice. Restorative justice, but that's like, I'm doing transformative accountability, because restorative justice is very closely related to the judicial system, which also already has guilt, so it's been tried and convicted. Whereas with the social practices of rehabilitating the entire situation, it's transformational. It may not be restorative. It may not be justice. It may not be,
Robert, you had
We're
some?
experiencing some of that with that situation I mentioned earlier. We're working with the Radical Accountability Council
Yep.
for for this, where it was more of a safety and two people not getting along very well. In
Right.
theory, our coffee camp is supposed to be very egalitarian, and it was sort of sold on that basis. And in reality, there was a lead that I worked pretty well with, but this person they did not work very well with, and it was actually unsafe a little bit getting down to the burn, to where they're staying in a house with black mold in it, spending 2 days getting them out to the burn on time. And it was a really bad way to introduce yourself to the burn. They had a pretty negative experience, and I feel bad about that.
Dimitri?
Having
Yeah.
camped at the burn in a tent that was actively growing black mold 1 year,
Yeah.
don't do that, terrible idea. But the reason I'm having it's kind of like,
would not
Why
buy.
did you do that?
I was young, it was my second year, and I've learned much in the following 9 years of burning.
Good.
No, but I keep having this reaction to everything you guys are saying, because we are going through, and this is, by the way, extremely useful conversation, because we are so our camp's been around for almost 10 years, so it's our upcoming 10th year, and we've been experiencing a influx and now slow deflation of membership signups, and part of that has been expressed to me as we have one of our co-founders who has been coming, who's been over time more and more difficult to be around, and it's only a part of that, but it's difficult to be around, especially if you are not a man. If you are a man, he's fantastic, he has fantastic booze, but as soon as you're not a man, you can experience, how should I put it best way, not a fantastic language towards you. On one hand, we've been I've known him longer than this camp has existed, and I've been trying to work through some things with him. On the other hand, the longer he's in camp, the lower our returning population is, and also our existing population is leaving. At the same time, he is not actively being creepy towards anybody specific. He is not doing anything wrong. It is that his views tend to make people uncomfortable. How do you manage that? And this has actually been extremely helpful. So I think all of you kind of helped.
But wait,
I
do you
wanna-
have any answers?
but
Because
I-
while it's helpful to discuss that, I don't know
So-
that there's an answer, because that happens to all of us. That situation exists too.
Oh, absolutely.
Well,
mean,
yeah,
I'm
we've got,
sharing-
and it's not just, we've got a
not easy.
male bully in the camp and we got a female bully in the camp. And I have
Bullies,
people
Be
who
anybody.
have said, we decided not to camp with you this year because of our experience with her.
Yeah.
Or our experience with him. I'm like, damn it! I want you in the camp! But, you
We
know.
do-
FYI, we're way off topic.
Yeah.
We went into a whole different, and this one's really intimate too.
We are at time, and I just want to say thank you, Opal.
Thank you, Lisa.
Rachel, thank you, Annie, thank you, Robert, thank you, Ally, thank you, Kelsey, thank you, Dimitri, thank you, Ms. Kitty, and thank you, the Jill. That turned into a whole bunch of different.
That was kind of awesome.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
That was really